Hey, all right, we're going to go to chapter 2, beginning the problem-solving process in the intro to programming class. So, you got to read the chapter, guys. I know a lot of you don't like to. If you have the ebook, it may have an option where it can be read to you. So if you're using an ebook through Cengage Unlimited, you might check that out. Usually that's an option. All right. Chapter 2 is beginning the problem-solving process, and it's going to go into algorithms much more. If you remember in Chapter 1, you had to create some algorithms. An algorithm is just the steps that you take to solve a problem. Okay? You do algorithms all day long and you don't even think about it, because what you're doing are steps. Let's say you have a test that you're going to study for. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I need this much time. I'm going to study these terms, vocabulary, whatever. Then I'll take the test, okay? You're doing an algorithm in your head. You just don't think of it that way. It's your everyday problem solving, except when you're doing a program, you have to be a little more detailed in what that algorithm is. So while the algorithms we did in Chapter 1 were kind of general, you're going to start seeing them become more refined and more specific, because we need them to be more specific so that we can code from them. So we're going to get to coding in Chapter 4. Okay, so again, make sure you're reading the chapter and paying attention at the bottom of 25 to how to create a computer solution to a problem. And it lists off 6 steps. These are routinely asked in any test or quiz what the steps are, which one's first, which one's hard. On page 26, it starts talking about analyzing the problem. So what I'm going to start asking you to do now when you have these situations or word problems that are given to you in assignments, you're going to start looking at what is input and what is output. For this class, input is anything entered by the user. Entered by the user, not the programmer. Entered by the user of the system. Output will be anything requested by the user to be seen or displayed on a screen or printed out. So that's going to be output. Sometimes you need stuff in the middle, a temporary holding variable, something like that. That would be considered a processing item. Now, and a little different from your book, I am also considering processing items things that are used by the program but not entered. So when you get to constants, if your program has a constant value of something, we'll get into that later of what that might be, but a constant is going to be a processing item. It is not input because it's not typed in by the user. Keep that in mind going forward. So there are hints in the book for how to analyze a problem. Basically, I want you to start looking at what's input and what's output. And what do I need to, then it's what do I need to do to get from the input to the output? And that's the processing part. There are more than one way to do these algorithms. You've seen me use text boxes that I moved around. Lots of people like flowchart symbols. I was taught programming using flowcharting. It's an awesome tool. It gives you great overview. We actually use it in meetings sometimes. It gives a different visual impact than just verbal or written text. You will see examples of that in this chapter. Make yourself familiar with the different symbols for start, processing, decisions, etc. I'm not going to ask you to use flowcharting right now. I may ask you in the future to do some, but not right now. You will also come to a concept called desk checking the algorithm. I had a little video of that in Chapter 1. Sometimes I'll ask you to desk check and sometimes not. In general, our algorithms are so short, a lot of desk checking isn't always needed. However, in the real programming world, you have to desk check everything and consider how the computer would process it. Not necessarily you, but the computer is processing what you're telling it to do. Desk checking is sometimes called hand tracing, and basically what it means is you're going to go through every statement in the algorithm and plug numbers in to see if it's going to come out with the answer you think it should. So that's what that is. It's very important that desk checking, that you do it before you code a program. But even more important is the testing that you will do of the program, and that's not in this chapter. So, but we'll get to that, okay? So you're going to have a whole bunch in here about the desk checking. Then you're going to have this mileage. Well, let me back up a minute. So on page 34, it's going to mention about valid and invalid data. For the most part in this class, you're just to consider all the data entered as valid data. There will be exceptions to that, but for right now, pretend no one can make a mistake entering data. That's just because you don't have the skills yet to do a lot of error checking. You will develop some in this course and the next, but for now, assume most data entered is valid data. Valid meaning expected. That's exactly what you would expect it to be. The end of the chapters, the end of all chapters have these labs. They're stop and analyze, plan and create, modify, and then you get a what's missing lab. I'll go through one of those in another video. I'm not going to probably do every lab at the end of chapter 2 like I did at the end of chapter 1 because you should kind of start getting the hang of this going forward. Okay, so that gives you sort of an overview of this chapter, what I'm looking for, and what you should expect. Always ask questions. I may have a discussion forum for that, but I really would like you to just email me your question, whatever it is. I'll be glad to sort of look at it and then answer you, or I might do a video because a lot of people are asking it. So just because you might see a video come after a question, do not assume that I'm calling you out or that people are going to know it's you. I may have 5 people asking the same question, and I'm going to answer it one time through a video. All right, guys, onward to chapter 2.